Welcome to parenting. This is week 2, communicating with your child. My name is Joylyn Allard. I am the therapist here at CASA, and I am joined today with Leslie Minton, our children's program manager, and my intern, Katie Glasgow. The course expectations are still the same as last week. Please silence your phone, only answer if it's an emergency, just to ensure that your phone is not posing as a distraction to yourself while learning the material presented to you. Participate in conversation boards and ask questions if you feel comfortable doing so. Be respectful and kind to others, and keep in mind confidentiality when engaging in conversation and questions. Do not share group material with others that are not in the class. If you know of other people in your life that are interested in taking this course, please refer them to us. Do not give them the material. And keep track of your own certificates, because we as instructors do not keep copy of them. We just keep records of attendance and whether or not you received a certificate. We don't keep copies of the actual signed ones with your name on them. I recommend keeping a folder or something for you to have those at your disposal, basically, or for your own record keeping to prove if you participated in the course, especially if you are required to take the course by a court system or children's division or any other agency. In week 2, we're going to learn about healthy communication with your child. The learning objectives are to learn how to assist in the language development of your children, to identify different methods of communication, learning and identifying how to utilize positive communication with your other family members and with your children, how to administer effective directions, and common barriers to communication. So when we are talking about facilitating language development, what this looks like is providing a supportive atmosphere and making sure they feel free and comfortable talking to you. Read to your child. Make sure to point out words when you read to them. Talk about the pictures in the book. One thing I know I do with my children that I would hope helps facilitate language development is when we watch TV or movies together, the subtitles are on so they can learn to associate words on the screen with the spoken words that are being said by the characters. Have plenty of tools available to them for written communication, such as crayons, colored pencils, pens, markers, and encourage your child to use these to communicate. I use written communication and the tools to help my child own his responsibility in some things, so he has to write apology letters instead of verbally apologizing. And then play sound and word games, like how many words are in this sentence, how many syllables, and rhyming games. And if your child shows any difficulties with communicating, don't finish his or her sentences. Be patient and model easy, slower, and less complex speech. And when they continue to show difficulties, you could also take them to their primary care doctor, get them checked out, because sometimes it could be something medical, such as a hearing problem, that may need to be medically addressed. Also, be an active listener and participate in the conversation that the child wants to have. Follow their lead. Ask open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions that are like just yes or no answers. Don't encourage them to continue speaking. It's just like yes, or how was your day? Fine. You could just be like, tell me about your day. What did you do? And then encourage them to elaborate on topics that you notice are important to them. Provide good role models. If they mispronounce a word, make the sound correctly yourself. Don't ask your child to repeat the word or the sounds he or she struggles with. Correct the child gently by saying things like, oh, you want soup, instead of soup, not thoop. And talk to them about everything. Describe what they're doing. Just make sure it's not fast, because they can misunderstand you. and it could cause some communication errors. There are multiple channels of communication. There's verbal communication, nonverbal communication, written communication, and visual communication. In verbal communication, these are the words that are actually coming out of our mouth, like our vocabulary that we choose to use to communicate. There's also the tone of voice and the voice volume and pace and stuff like that. And then nonverbal communication is our body language, our facial expressions, and gestures. Written communication are like emails, text, documents, letters, newspapers, social media posts, anything that's written or text that you would read. And written communication can easily be misconstrued. And then there's visual communication, which is through art, charts, graphs, memes, GIFs, emojis, visual aids, photos, etc. So, positive communication is one tool we can use to have a healthy communication style with our children, and that is positive communication is any kind of communication that elicits a positive response and reaction, and actions and reactions from the intended receiver. So when you're talking to someone, that person responds positively to what you have to say. It has the power to convert any negative feelings into positive ones, helps you create a good impression of yourself, does not mean only saying nice things to avoid conflict. And positive communication, what it looks like through the various channels, is like verbal is speaking clearly and directly, speaking loudly enough to be heard but not loud enough to where you're yelling, using humor and responding appropriately to others. In body language, it looks like good posture that's open, making good eye contact, nodding to show attentiveness. And then written can be any kind, is just being kind and wording things in a way that it does not display any intense or negative emotions or responses. So how do we use positive communication? It's easier said than done. I know it's one thing I struggle with when I'm talking to my kids, like, no, you can't do that. But avoiding those negative words such as cannot, can't, no, will not, unable to, and phrase your message with more positive words but convey the same message. An example is you cannot play with your Legos. Instead of saying you cannot play with your Legos right now, instead say if you clean up the puzzle pieces, then you can play with your Legos. Leslie, did you want to say something?
That example pretty much explained it.
Okay.
I was just going to say that anytime you can offer an explanation instead of just saying no, it makes it easier for a child, first of all, to follow your direction because they understand why you're giving it. And then it allows them to start thinking through like critical thinking, problem solving. There's reasons why we can't do things like that.
It helps them become autonomous and independent because they're able to understand why they are doing things.
And then look at the positive aspects. Even negatives have a silver lining or something good about them. Maintain a positive outlook and attitude despite any negativity. For example, if your child wants you to help them do something, adding one more thing to your own to-do list, maintain a positive attitude and try to think of the positives, such as them wanting you to help them, the fact that they trust you, they want the help, they're not trying to push you away, and it offers an opportunity, to spend time with them and help them with their request.
Also, like, constructive criticism, I think, would fall under positive communication. Making sure that you're building your kids up when you're correcting them, not just tearing them down. And remember that they don't understand everything that you have to do in a day, so when you come off negative when they're trying to ask you questions or create time spent with them, then all they're seeing is that they've upset you. They don't understand that you still have to do laundry and whatever.
What I do a lot of times is I'll be like, okay, can you can you come with me while I do this, and you can talk to me about what you want while I'm doing this. I know it shows that I'm not paying full attention, but if it's like a simple request like, hey mom, later can you help me with my homework, I'll be like, okay, yeah, just give me a minute, I need to start this load, and then I'll be right up. So also suggesting alternatives and solutions for things that cannot be done. So analyze the situation with them and suggest other options. Like if you cannot help them with their homework because it's too hard, suggest they ask a teacher or find a tutor, or offer to help them find a tutor. And avoid force and coercion. Nobody likes being forced to do anything. Try to tone it down and use positive phrases like could you please or would you, but you also need to be careful about wording things in a question form. We'll talk about this a little bit later because it gives the child an opportunity to say no to you when you're asking a question. And then also sound helpful when you're talking to them. Nothing can be more positive and reassuring than when someone genuinely wants to help you. Also, recognize the difference in the communication styles within your family. Every person and the way they communicate is going to be different, and understanding that is going to help you learn to communicate effectively with those individuals and learn how these differing communication styles impact your relationships with one another. Practice active listening. We'll talk about what that looks like a little bit later. Being honest and open with them. Remember to take care of your own physical and mental wellness, and remind your child how much you love them. The benefits of positive communication is it helps children develop a healthy bond with their parents or caregivers. It builds the child's communication skills. It builds trust. It helps resolve and prevent conflict. It provides clarity and direction, and increases engagement in communication, and it improves productivity. Here is a video on communicating with your child. I do believe it's from the CDC.
Positive communication with our children helps them develop in a healthy way and strengthens our bond with them.
Parents can really kind of tune into what their kids are saying to kind of build those communication skills, help their children build language skills by saying, you know, what did you say, and repeating back what the kids said and reflecting on that emotion that kids are expressing.
There are 4 steps for communicating positively with your child. Step 1. Praise. Use praise to help your child know what you'd like them to do. Be clear and specific with your praise. Instead of good job, say good job putting away your toys.
Great job putting your toys away, Jenny.
It's very, very important as a parent to be conscious as much as possible of what your kids are doing, but you're checking in on them enough that there's opportunities to acknowledge what they're doing, that it's good.
Step 2. Imitation. You can copy or imitate the things your child is doing that you want them to keep doing. This shows your child that you are paying attention to them and interested in what they are doing. When copying and imitating, make sure you do the things the way your child does. Do not try to do things better or faster than your child.
Then they see that you've recognized they're doing something that you're also doing. Wow, mommy likes that. Mommy likes to play with my dolls too, so that must be something good that I'm doing. I'm going to do that again in the future.
Step 3. Description. Describing or talking about what your child is doing while they play shows your child you are noticing their good behavior. You can act like a sportscaster who is telling people what is happening in a game. You are putting the red block on the green block and making a tall tower. Step 4. Active listening. Giving your child your full attention when you are playing and talking with them can help build your relationship. At least once a day, try to really focus on being with your child. Try to decrease distractions like cell phones so you can give her your full attention. One way to actively listen is to talk about what your child is doing or to repeat what your child says. You can also add more detail to encourage them to talk to you more. For example, your child may say, "I colored it." But with active listening, you may add to that and say, "Yes, you colored her dress blue and red." Active listening can also help children name their feelings. For example, if your child is crying and says she's not happy, you may say, "You seem unhappy and sad." Playtime is a great time to practice praise, imitation, description, and active listening. You can also use these skills anytime you are with your child, at dinner, in the car, and when giving a bath.
No.
Positive.
Also, having family meetings, which are discussions that involve the entire family that are concerned about or affected by a particular issue, often helps find a solution to a problem that the family is currently experiencing, and they can tend to also be used to address issues before they can escalate to an unreasonable level and to prevent problems from occurring. The benefits of family meetings are they build the child's self-esteem because you're showing that you care about what they have to say and you're willing to listen. They learn that children learn that family members are interdependent on one another. They help children deal effectively with problems that they encounter. The family becomes more cohesive and close, and it counterbalances hectic lives, provides a platform to address conflicts and resolve them, and provides the opportunity for information to be shared equally in a safe environment. And when planning a family meeting, decide who is going to be involved in the meeting, what topics are going to be brought up, allow each person to state their viewpoint on the problem, ask each person to offer suggestions, develop a plan of action, set a time for a follow-up meeting, and be ready to talk about at the next meeting if the plan that was put into place at the last meeting is working. Leslie?
Also, I think sometimes when we think about family meetings, we tend to think about like a nuclear family when a mom and dad are living together, but a family meeting can also be really good if you're co-parenting because it allows the kid to see that you're still a united front when it comes to them, and it takes away a lot of the playing one against the other. So if mom and dad are on the same page, then there's more consistency with the kid.
Right. Agreed. Using iMessages while communicating. Using an iMessage is a way to express your own needs, expectations, problems, feelings, or concerns to your children or others in a respectful way that does not attack them. The benefits of using I statements is you can use an iMessage when you have very strong feelings, especially when your child's behavior is not something that is acceptable to you. But the benefits of iMessages include helping you get a clearer message to your child about your feelings as you communicate to them. You're making it very clear how you feel, why you feel it, and what they can do to fix that behavior. And it's also modeling a healthy way of dealing with those feelings. It provides a way for you to express anger without insulting your children or being dismissive of or diminishing their self-esteem. It also informs your children of your reactions to their behavior, therefore teaching them like cause and effect. It also gives your children the opportunity to be responsive to your needs by choosing to act differently next time, thus helping your child become less egocentric, which means they mostly focus on themselves as they consider the effect of their behavior on other people. It also opens the door to honesty when communicating and contributes to a healthy relationship and increases the level of trust and sense of connection. In how you construct an iMessage, there are 3 parts to a formal iMessage. When you do not have to use all 3 parts every time, nor do you have to use them in order, but you describe the specific behavior by saying stuff like when I see or when I hear. And describe how it makes you feel by saying I feel, and then describe the tangible and specific effect that behavior has on you. An example that is provided is when I see you playing with your toys. When I say our time is up, I get upset because I don't want to keep your older brother waiting to go to school. The iMessage can also be used to state your needs, values, and positive feelings, such as pride or appreciation. So in that situation where you say, when I see you still playing with your toys, when I say our time is up, I get upset because I don't want to keep your other brother waiting for school, that's describing the first 3. To put in a need, you can add another sentence by saying, so when I ask you to clean up your toys, I need you to do so. So that kind of gives them like a specific direction on what to do. This is a question for attention verification. I will not read the question. I recommend that you guys keep a document or something where throughout the PowerPoint these will be both audio and visual, where I will read some of them but I will not read others, and keep your answers and the questions documented so you can turn them in the portal on the Google Classroom in week 2. This is used to help verify that you are indeed paying attention and that you are not just flipping through stuff to get it done and earn a certificate. Four steps to positive communication. The first one is praise. The second is imitation. The third is description. And the fourth is active listening. In the first step of praising, you will use praise to encourage positive behaviors. Be clear and specific when you praise for what they are doing. That way they know what you want them to do. Like, instead of just saying, oh, good job, say, oh, thank you, good job for cleaning up your toys. In step 2 is imitation, where you copy or imitate the safe behaviors that your child is displaying during play or other activities. When you're imitating what your child is doing, do it just like your child does it. Don't do it better. Don't do it faster. And by imitating your child, they then learn that that's a safe behavior and that it's a good behavior, and they will be more likely to repeat it in the future. But also keep in mind that children also learn by imitating others, so keep an eye on what you do around your child that you don't want them picking up. Like, some people don't want their kids cursing or all sorts of stuff like using middle fingers or gestures, so making sure that you're role modeling positive behavior to your child because they will pick it up.
They listen to your actions a lot more than your words.
Exactly.
So you can tell them 1,000 times, but it comes to a point where if mom doesn't have to do it or dad doesn't have to do it, then I don't really need to do it. And then it becomes like a battle that doesn't need to happen.
A power struggle. Step 3 is description, where you describe your child's play. When you're describing or talking about your child, what your child is doing while they play, it shows that you are noticing their positive behaviors. An example of this is if your child's playing with dolls or something, you could say, oh, I see you put the red dress on Teresa. Where is she going in that dress? You're asking an open-ended question, so you're also inviting conversation, but you're also describing what they do, or if they're too young to play with Barbies or you don't have a girl, if you could do it with cars or blocks, really anything that they're doing during play.
Also, another good way is to take books and instead of focusing on the story, focus on the pictures and have them tell their own story. Mm-hmm. And then you're interacting with them and engaging their imagination and creative thinking skills.
It's a good one. And step 4 is active listening. Give your children your full attention when you are playing and talking to them. Using active listening can help build your relationship. At least once a day, try to be fully present with your child with limited or no distractions. So turning the TV off, your cell phone off, and being fully present. Active listening can help your child learn to name their feelings, such as when they display those things and they don't know how to name them. You could be like, oh, I see that you're not happy, or you seem unhappy or sad. Or even when you're displaying emotions, you can say, I'm not happy. Some more about active listening is paying full attention, minimizing distractions, keep your own talk to a minimum, acknowledge what your child is saying, show empathy, rephrase and summarize the things that they say to you and dish it back. Look for alternatives or evaluate consequences, like what can we do about this? Briefly share your own experience with similar situations or circumstances if they're willing to listen to them. Don't just offer them up freely. Just be like, do you mind if I tell you something that worked for me or something that happened to me? Because they can learn from their parents' mistakes and actions too. Identify and respond to feelings that are being expressed. Use eye contact and literally get down on their level. So like bending a knee, sitting down, where you can be eye to eye with them, because when you're standing up, they're little people and hovering over them can make them feel intimidated and shut down. Offer up encouragement and follow up later when there's a problem that needs to be solved, and ask them how it was resolved and how the situation went.
When it comes to listening, one thing that I try to remember is what is important to me when I'm trying to talk to somebody. Just because they're kids, they have the same feelings we do. So if they're trying to tell you something important and you're on your phone, it's going to be frustrating to them. And so giving them the same respect that I expect for myself is a good way to kind of navigate that.
Healthy communication with your child, making sure they understand, so use child-appropriate language. Make eye contact with them, get down physically to your child's level, speak clearly, and use the child's language. It's kind of like going to a doctor's office or a lawyer's office and they're using terminology that you don't understand. The same thing can happen when you're communicating with your child. When your child follows your direction, make sure to praise them for listening. This is a video from the CDC on a communication activity. It displays some actions that the mom is doing, and later on it highlights opportunities for communication that were missed because the mom wasn't fully present with what was going on or didn't know how to appropriately communicate with her child.
Like a snake. You see it? It's an S. So we have S and B. Look here. Oh, I love this one. N. You say it. N. Good. Look, Mommy. Oh, that's great, honey. Now go pick up that stuff in the hallway and put it back in the thing. You know, the big green one. Thanks. Like a snake. You see it? It's an S. So we have S and B. Look here. Oh, I love this one. N. You say it. N. Good. Look, Mommy. Oh, that's great, honey. Now go pick up that stuff in the hallway and put it back in the thing. You know, the big green one. Thanks.
Here is another visual attention verification question. Please pause and answer the question on the document that you've created. Here, I would invite you to go to the group discussion in Google Classrooms and have an open discussion about positive communication, some ways that you can engage in positive communication, some examples of I statements that you could do to express yourself to your child. And if you do choose to engage in conversation or ask questions to us instructors, keep in mind confidentiality of the other participants involved, and also your own confidentiality and what you choose to share. Next is the 4 steps to giving good directions. To give good directions, it helps, giving good directions helps your child know exactly what we expect from them or what we want them to do. So the first step is to get their attention. The second is to give the direction. The third is to check compliance and then add a consequence. The next 4 slides are individual slides for each one of these steps. But before we go to those steps, here is a video from the CDC on giving directions.
Giving good directions helps children know what we want from them. There are 4 steps to giving good directions. Step 1. Get their attention. Make sure your child is focused and paying attention when you give directions.
I think eye contact is critical, especially with our younger kids. You know, they're very stimulated by their environment, and there's a lot of things going on. So it's really important that when we call their name or we're trying to give them an instruction, we wait until they're actually attending to us. And eye contact is a key component of that. We know that they're paying attention, that they heard you, and now they're paying attention to you and can receive the instruction that you want to give.
Step 2. Give the direction. When possible, tell your child exactly what you want him to do, rather than what you don't want him to do. For example, telling your child to put the crayons in the box clearly tells your child what to do. If you say, "Don't leave your art supplies out," your child might not know what you want him to do.
What we really want to do as parents, ultimately, we want kids to follow those directions. So if there are things that we can do to make it easier for them to follow those directions, we should absolutely be trying those things. That way we know when the kids are not doing what we ask them to do, we know that it's because it's intentional and not because they're confused or because they don't understand.
Depending on your child's age, he may need time to think about how to begin following a direction. Step 3. Check compliance. Make sure your child follows your direction. When your child is stalling or doing something else, he is not following your direction. You can repeat your direction and give a warning that a consequence is coming if he does not do as told.
One of the things that I try to talk with my children about is if you follow directions, you listen to mom and dad and you follow directions, you're going to be in pretty good shape. You're not going to get in trouble if you're following directions.
Step 4. Add a consequence. A consequence is what happens when your child does not follow directions. If your child doesn't follow your directions, give a consequence. You might give your child a timeout or take away something he enjoys. Make it clear to your child that the consequence is for not following directions. After the consequence is over, Go back to being positive with your child. Don't hold a grudge or continue to lecture your child about following directions. Following these steps for giving good directions will help you connect with your child.
Step 1, get their attention. Make sure the child is focused on you and paying attention. So knowing what active listening looks like, having eye contact, and before giving the direction, it's vital to wait to make sure you have your child's attention. They're not looking behind you at like a TV or something, and just making sure that they're hearing what you're saying.
I just want to add here, for kids that have like autism or some other sensory issues, eye contact can be hard, and so a trick that I use for my brother is I have him look at my nose. That way I know he's paying attention, but I'm not forcing him to do something that he's uncomfortable with. Another thing is if you have an active child, having them come to you, like say their name, have them come to you, be standing in front of you, so that you know that you have their attention, because children are easily distracted.
Right.
And it's even worse when you have a child that has like ADHD or any other type of learning disability. And so really making sure you have their attention is important.
Agreed. Step 2, give the direction. Tell your child exactly what you want them to do rather than what you do not want them to do. That is one example of using positive communication, such as instead say put your crayons in your school box instead of don't leave your art supplies out. Your child may not fully understand what you want from them if you're not specific, or if you use the negative, don't leave your art supplies out, because art supplies could be anything. It could be paint, it could be markers, colored pencils, paintbrushes. So being specific and using positive communication will help aid in making sure your message is fully understood.
My youngest niece had a problem with that, like if you told her to clean her room or do anything really, she can only do 1 or 2 tasks at a time.
Right.
Before she gets distracted. So if you're picking up the playroom, you can say, pick up all of the blocks and then come back to me and I'll give you the next direction. And then it makes it easier and there's not a power struggle, and then it builds confidence in the child because they're completing the tasks that have been assigned to them.
The next step is to check compliance. Make sure your child follows the direction. To make sure your child follows the direction, you check to make sure they're doing it. When your child isn't following the direction, repeat the direction to them and then give them a warning that if they do not follow your directions, a consequence is coming. Children need to understand that if they follow their parents' directions, they will not get in trouble, but if they fail to do so, they will get in trouble. If children do not follow their parents' directions, making sure that when you say there's going to be a consequence coming, that you're prepared to enforce it as well, and stay consistent. And then step 4 is add a consequence. If it is appropriate, give your child a consequence for not following your directions. Some examples of consequences are taking a time out, taking something they enjoy away. Make sure it is clear to your child that the consequence is for not following your directions. And after you give them the consequence, go back to being positive with your child. Don't hold a grudge. Don't lecture them. Doing these things is damaging to your relationship, and a lot of times when you lecture them, they don't have the attention span to sit there and listen to you tell them about how listening is important. This is an audio attention verification question. What are the 4 steps of giving a good direction, and something you could say in each step that fits those steps? Please answer this in a document that you've created to submit to me in the Google Classrooms forum. So, next, what are natural and logical consequences? They are a consequence that is a result of something a person does. Letting children experience the natural or logical consequences of their actions is one way to teach your child responsibility. We do go into consequences a little bit in this PowerPoint, but we do it more so in our discipline one, which is in a few weeks. Natural or logical consequences are the outcomes that are a result of the behavior that are not planned or controlled. For example, if a student cuts in line in front of other people, the natural consequence is that the child will be labeled a cutter at recess, and then people won't want to play with them. So natural consequences are they're the natural result of a child's own actions. For example, if you told your kid to go put their coat on because it's cold outside and they went outside anyway without their coat, the natural consequence is they're going to be cold. This makes the consequence on the child. The child is responsible for the consequence that they are experiencing, because in the example, the child decided not to wear his coat, therefore he is cold. The consequence is not administered by the parent. The parent didn't magically wave a wand and make it cold outside so Tommy would learn how to wear his coat when he's told to. And Mom and Dad didn't send him outside without a coat on. He chose to do so himself. So the parent is at no source at fault. But natural consequences should really only be used if a child is not in danger of hurting themselves or others, if you allow them to experience the natural consequences of their behaviors. A logical consequence is the result of a child's actions, but these consequences are imposed by a parent or a caregiver. For an example, if your child rides the bike in the street after they're told not to, the logical consequence then is to take the bike away from them. And logical consequences are most useful when the actions could result in harm to the child, but it is also important to make sure that the logical consequences are reasonable and related to the problem. So when she was riding her bike in the street, you took her bike away. You didn't send her to her room to write 50 sentences, "I will not ride my bike in the street." And you let both the parent and the child walk away from that situation with their dignity and self-respect. This is a visual verification question, really more of an activity. I'm going to play the video and I want you to name a logical and a natural consequence for the child's behavior in this video. One of your own, if you could think of them.
Finito!
That's all?
That's all? Don't you know what this is?
I thought it's gum.
Wrong! It's the most amazing, fabulous, sensational gum in the whole world.
What's so fab about it?
This little piece of gum is a 3-course dinner.
Bull. No, roast beef, but I haven't got it quite right yet.
I don't care.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I really wouldn't.
So long as it's gum, then that's for me.
Violet, now don't you do anything stupid.
What's it taste like? It's tomato soup. It's hot and creamy. I can actually feel it running down my throat.
Stop, don't.
Why doesn't she listen to Mr. Wonka?
Because, Charlie, she's a nitwit.
It sure is great soup. Hey, the second course is coming up. Roast beef and a baked potato. Mmm.
With sour cream? What's for dessert, baby?
Dessert? Here it comes. Blueberry pie and cream. It's the most marvelous blueberry pie I've ever tasted.
Holy Toledo, what's happening to your face?
Cool it, Dad. Let me finish.
Yeah, but your face is turning blue. Violet, you're turning violet, Violet.
What are you talking about?
I told you I hadn't got it quite right yet. You can say that again. Look what's done to my kid. Always goes wrong when we come to the dessert. Always. Violet, what are you doing now? You're blowing up.
I feel funny.
Not surprised.
What's happening?
You're blowing up like a balloon.
Like a blueberry.
Somebody do something. Call a doctor.
Stick her with a pin. She'll pop.
It
It happens every time. They all become blueberries.
You really done it this time, haven't you, Walter? I'll break you for this!
Oh, well, I'll get it right now.
Help! Help!
Oh, who let the air out of her quick?
There's no air in there.
Hmm?
That's juice.
Juice?
Would you roll the young lady down to the juicing room at once, please?
What for?
For squeezing. She has to be squeezed immediately before she explodes.
Explodes?
It's a fairly simple operation.
I found another puzzle for you. Oompa loompa doompa da dee. If you are wise, you'll listen to me. Gum chewing's fine when it's once in a while. It stops you from smoking and brightens your smile. But it's repulsive, revolting and wrong. Chewing and chewing all day long. The way that a cow does. Oompa loompa doompa dee da. Given good manners, you will go far. You will live in happiness too. Like the Oompa loompa doompa dee doo.
Agreeing with you for this walk-up's the last thing I ever do! I got a blueberry for a daughter!
Write your answers on the document to be submitted in the Google Classroom's portal. Giving directions in child-appropriate language, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but we often have expectations that are not appropriate for our children's abilities. We have false expectations about their word comprehension, their ability to follow multiple step directions, and the length of their attention spans. So making sure that we understand our child individually, what they comprehend, what their abilities are as far as following through on multiple step commands, and their attention spans to complete those tasks and listen to you dish out the multiple attention spans. This is a pretty comical using child inappropriate language with your child to communicate directions with them, provided by the CDC on their webpage.
Tommy's such a good boy. Kind, attentive. I couldn't ask for a better child. And he's at that age where he's starting to be really curious about everything going on around him. In fact, he's like a little sponge. What's that, Mommy? How does this work, Mommy? It's really exciting. Except for one little thing.
What's this, Mommy?
That's a thingamajig. You know, a digger wants it.
It's probably just a phase he's going through, but he doesn't seem to be able to follow directions very well. It's like he sometimes can't comprehend what I'm saying to him.
Look.
Oh, that's great, honey. Very cool. But don't forget, when you're all done here, you need to put all these little doodads away back in your whatchamajig.
I don't know, it just feels like we're speaking different languages. I mean, I get that he's only 3, but he just doesn't understand what I'm asking him to do. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, now I'd like you to take those pullovers and your little boxers and put them in the same drawer as your dungarees, just next to your Bermudas, and then you can start on your PJs and your other skivvies. And put your sandals and flip-flops away as well.
It just gets me a little frustrated is all. I mean, I talk to people every day. I should be able to communicate with a 3-year-old. I mean, how hard could it be? I think often we have expectations that are not appropriate for the abilities of our young children, and we speak and expect that, okay, we told them to go get the blue sneaker out of the closet and put it in your, toy bin, and we give these multiple commands. And that's assuming many things, that they know their colors, that they know, the articles of clothing, that they can follow multiple steps, that their attention span is long enough to really understand multiple step commands. So it's really assuming a lot versus keeping our directions or our instructions short and brief and at their level. I just want my son to listen to me. I want to know that he understands what I say and feels good about accomplishing the things that I tell him to do. And I want to make sure that I'm not confusing him.
Tommy, please pick up your books and put them back where you got them on the shelves over there.
A part of making sure that the kids understand and have heard you is making sure that when it's possible, you have their eye contact. If you can get down at their level and speak clearly using their language. That way you really can maximize the likelihood that they heard you and understand what you're saying.
Good try, but you know what? Your books go on the shelf with your other books. Do you understand?
And then if they're doing it, praising that they did it. That way they learn that when mommy gives an instruction and I do it, I'm gonna get positive attention.
Thank you, Tommy. You did a very good job putting away all your books.
Well, things are getting better. He's following my directions more often, especially when I make sure that he understands what I say. So now, being clear in my communication is my new focus. Clear communication, like crystal, like lake, at sunset, at twilight. Clear. Period.
Thanks, everybody.
That's great, guys. Thank you. So should I take the thingamajig off, or do you need to do that? What's it first? The widget thing, the contraption you use, you know? Cut! Why are you laughing?
The importance of giving good directions is it teaches your child how to behave and what you expect from them. And good directions are also helpful when you need your child to do something specific or to stop your child from doing something that you don't want them to do, whether it's misbehavior or something dangerous. And good directions, if they follow through with them, can prevent misbehaviors from occurring because it teaches them like what you expect from them, and then they gain a sense of responsibility. We talk about this a little bit more in the directions and discipline PowerPoint at a later date. So here are some funny videos on the importance of giving directions. This dad is famous on YouTube for having his child write exact instructions for how to do simple tasks, and then he does it word for word how it's written, and it incredibly frustrates his children to no end, and it's really funny to watch. In this video there's a peanut butter challenge and a ramen noodle challenge, but I think for time's sake I'm just gonna play the peanut butter one, and you could check him out on YouTube for further laughs and giggles. Video unavailable. Just kidding, I'm playing the other one.
What's up, the internet? I'm Josh Darnett. This is my favorite child. She is lovely, beautiful. Her name is Gianna, and you should follow her on all social medias. And this is Evan. You should unfollow him because he's terrible. I have a beard, and it's gray.
You heard the man. What's up, the internet? We are back. It has been too long since we've done an exact instructions challenge, and a few weeks ago we got an awesome package from Nick and Anna Stafford. They were in Taiwan.
Dried noodles instructions. This is more involved than I thought.
And they sent us an exact instructions challenge, which we're going to do, but before that I want to do my own exact instructions challenge with these kids.
Which I am Josh Darnett.
Which he is Josh Darnett.
Little fart, and my son Evan is the best guy in the world. And also you should follow him in Unjalo. But you should follow the rock star, my son Evan.
Welcome to the exact instructions challenge, Ramen Noodles edition. Alright guys, you know the drill. I need you to write down instructions. Tell me everything I need to do. Tell me everything I need to know on how to make these noodles. But out of my okay, just do that. So the other day, Evan was telling me he was going to make noodles himself, and I said, do you know how to do it? And he goes, yeah. And I said, do you think you could do an exact instructions challenge? And he said, yeah, but not for a video. I proved him wrong, because here we are.
So this time I'm here, I safety proofed every step.
You safety proofed every step? That was quick, by the way.
Yeah, because
It says first, open the ramen. Okay. Second, get a bowl. Put the ramen into the bowl. Get some hot water. Pour the hot water into the bowl. Grab a plate, put the plate over the bowl, and then wait. See you in a bit.
I told you I'm not sure.
You're ready with round 2 before John is ready with round 1?
Yeah.
Get some ramen. Carefully open the ramen. Get a bowl. Put all of the ramen into the bowl. Get some hot water. Carefully pour it into the bowl. Put a plate carefully over the bowl and wait. It's fantastic. It's going to be the best ramen I've ever had. I guarantee it.
I'm ready.
Bring it to me.
I got 10 steps, so there's no way I can fail.
Pour about a cup of clean water into the water heater thingy majig. Done. Switch the water heater on so that it heats up. Take a ramen packet and Pokemon bowl. Alright. Open the ramen packet and pour the ramen noodles into the bowl.
I'm being suspicious.
Crush up the ramen noodles in the bowl with a fork.
Come on.
Pour in the hot water from the water heater into the bowl with the ramen until the water fills up a little more than half of the bowl. Take the ramen flavor packet and carefully open it. Pour the powder into the bowl with the ramen noodles and hot water. Mix it all with a fork in the bowl until the flavor is evenly distributed. Eat.
I'd say it was pretty close.
You wouldn't serve this in your restaurant?
Not in a restaurant, but I mean, I wouldn't choose you as a cook.
Get some ramen. Get a bowl. Very carefully open the ramen. Do not put the plastic into the bowl, only put all of the ramen into the bowl. That's pretty exact. Get enough hot water to fill the bowl. This is enough hot water to fill the bowl. Get a plate and fastly put the plate on top of the bowl.
Dad, did you not hear pour the water into the bowl?
It doesn't say pour the water into the bowl. It just says get enough water to fill the bowl. But it doesn't tell me to fill it.
I said get enough water to fill the bowl.
Right. This is enough water to fill the bowl.
I know, and
I got it.
I know I meant to put it in the...
Did you? How about instead of you making your ramen, we all follow these instructions and we make Nick and Anna's ramen. We each get our own...
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but the peanut butter and jelly one that was unavailable is really funny. I encourage you to go look for it. Here I would encourage you to go ask questions, have a group discussion on directions and the importance of providing good directions, the steps, etc. Anything that you have questions about or would like to have a discussion about in the discussion forum in Google Classrooms. Keep in mind the confidentiality and safety of yourself and what you're willing to disclose, and as well as others, in keeping privacy in mind. There are 4 foundations of love and logic. This is a book that I have yet to read, but I've heard it's a really good one as far as parenting goes. The 4 foundations are shared control, shared thinking and decision making, equal shares of consequences with empathy, and then maintaining the child's self-concept. So shared control is when you gain control by giving away some of the control that you didn't need or that often wasn't yours to begin with. Shared thinking and decision making is providing opportunities for the child to do the greatest amount of thinking and decision making independently, or on their own, with maybe some outside help if they ask for advice. The equal shares of consequences with empathy is having an absence of anger when disciplining or adding consequences. This causes the child to think about and learn from his or her mistakes. I know one thing I do with my kids is when I'm angry, I will whisper to them because it feels a lot like yelling, but it's quieter and it kind of forces them to have to listen. And they also know that I'm upset because I'm whispering to keep myself from yelling. But it's also an absence of, like, the way anger is usually expressed, which is yelling and stuff like that at a high tone and feeling kind of offensive. Like, whispering is usually perceived as being very calm, and kids will be scared of someone who can remain calm while being angry.
It's also more than okay to take a time out.
Yeah.
I remember there was one time my niece stood up on her couch and yelled in my face that it was not her house, that it was not my house, and to get out. And there was no amount of whispering or breathing that was going to keep my control in that moment. So I picked her up, put her on her bed, and then I stepped outside for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's more important that you come and talk to them in a controlled manner, so that you can figure out and help them understand why they're having the behavior that they're having. And the anger doesn't help the situation at all. It doesn't help you maintain control and have understanding, and it leads to a blow up because
and also saying things that you can't take back, or doing things that you can't take back. I know they even encourage the timeout situation for parents of newborns who can't handle that their baby is crying for so long and they can't comfort them. Take a break. Put the kid in a safe spot in their crib or wherever. Walk away for 10 minutes, even if it means stepping outside for 10 minutes, but coming back and making sure that they're okay once you've calmed down. Parental timeouts are a thing.
And they're okay to take.
I know, I did it all the time when my kids were infants. I'm like, you are crying too much for me. I can't handle this. I need to step away because you can't.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't say that to a newborn because they're not going to understand. But having that thought process helped me have an absence of anger when talking to or interacting with my child. And then maintaining the child's self-concept, which is having an increased self-concept leads to improved behavior, and then therefore also improved achievement. So doing things that encourage your child to be independent, responsible, is going to enhance their self-esteem and their self-worth, and then therefore their self-concept, where these increased behavioral performance and achievement will come into play. In the Google Documents, like the Google Classroom, there is a folder that's titled Supplemental Handouts, and there's more stuff on the 4 foundations of love and logic for you to read through and understand if that's something that interests you. I just can't provide a whole lot of information for it because I've never read the books. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to research and answer them for you.
And a lot of this stuff is going to go along with an authoritative parenting style. It's really about partnering with your kid instead of dominating them.
I actually think there's a TED Talk in here about partnering. Actually, that's in the teen one.
It is. A lot of this stuff we'll go over again somewhere else.
We're going to hammer it in.
Partnering with your kid, I think, is one of the most important things you can do. It's also one of the things that I didn't understand until I worked in daycare and I worked with my nieces. Because the things that you would do with your kid, you can't do with somebody else's kid.
Right.
And the way that when you enter into an environment like that, you see where like the way that you're raised has skewed you in certain ways.
Right.
But if you can go from a place where your child feels like they're being heard, that they have part in the decision-making processes, that they have part in that they can come to you and things be explained to them in a way that they understand, they're going to be more willing to work with you because they feel respected and important in your life.
Partnering with your kid is very important. You'll see in the teen video, this guy has a TED Talk on how it worked with one of his teenagers, and the way it worked out, I think, was incredible. So the 5 steps to guiding children to solve their own problems. This is also an aspect of the 4 foundations of love and logic, or it's in the book at least. With empathy, it's providing a strong and sincere dose of empathy, like saying how sad I bet that hurts, empathizing with them. And when necessary, being able to send them the power message that it's their problem to deal with, hand it back to them, let them own it, but also be willing to work through it with them. Like asking them, what do you think you're going to do? How do you think this will what are the, offering choices, ask permission to share options. Like, would you like to hear some things that I've tried or other people have tried? And offer a variety of choices that range from good to bad. It's usually best to start out with the poor choices and then work into the good choices. And each time a choice is offered to them, go back to step 4 in love and logic, forcing the child to state the consequence in his or her own words. This means that you will be going back between the 4th step and 3 and 4. Also, have the child, like they said in the last one, state the consequences by providing at least 2 or 3 alternatives for solving the issue and how they think that will work, what consequences would come out of those actions, and give permission for the child to either solve the problem or to leave it be and not solve it. You could say stuff like, good luck, I hope it works out, have no fear. If the child is fortunate enough to make a poor choice in that situation, they may have a double learning lesson of not only learning to solve their own problem, but also learning that the action that they chose led to a certain consequence that they now have to live with because that's what they chose to do. So it's learning that their actions have consequences, and they're also learning how to solve their problems and evaluate the consequences and which situation is best solved by which, action. Expressing your love to your children. Building a positive relationship involves the expression of love. All children hunger and crave for love, even those who make a habit of acting as if they are unlovable. Children need to know that no matter what happens, no matter what they do or what they don't do, their parents or caregivers will love them always unconditionally. You can weave expressions of love into your everyday routine, some that are nonverbal, that are more physical, like hugs, playing with their hair, pats on the back. Me and my kids, we have a secret handshake. I have one for each of my children. They're each different. And they also, while you have those nonverbal expressions of love, make sure you are also verbally expressing your love for them, because I know in some situations, parents especially, or caregivers who have emotional or some mental health issues may not be able to say I love you without feeling as if their heart is being ripped out of their chest because of things happening to them in their past when people who claim to love them have hurt them. But it is important to not underestimate that your children, they need to hear you say those words to them. It is important for them to not only feel as if they're loved, loved by you, but to hear it as well. Otherwise, they will question it, and they may even question it when you do both. It just depends on the child.
It's also important to remember that if they aren't getting that love and connection from you as they get older, they'll seek it in other places, which puts them at higher risk for sexual activity, drug abuse, things of that nature.
Yep. They will seek it somewhere else if they're not getting it from the people that they need it from. Here are 2 videos on toxic parent-child communication. Hello. I know one of them is 8 things toxic parents say that can affect the child's lives, and then the other one is phrases that parents should never say to their children.
Psych2Go is a digital media organization that raises mental health awareness by presenting psychological topics in a always expect for content with those who need it. Children should always expect from their parents love and care. But what if the parents are toxic? How would you feel if I told you that in 2008, the Administration of Children and Families in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reported that more than 50,000 children were officially counted as victims of emotional abuse? Whether hurtful words are intended to cause pain or not, they can leave marks and memories from a short time to a lifetime. Hurtful remarks can come from loved ones, such as parents, and the psychological and emotional damage can be detrimental to a lot of people, especially their children. The way parents raise their children and behave around them sets up the basic ground which builds their personality and self-esteem. So, how do you know if a parent or caretaker is toxic? Here are 8 things toxic parents say that can affect a child's life. 1. Offensive words towards their appearance. You're ugly, too fat, too short, or too skinny, or you have ugly hair. Degrading a child based on their appearance will likely only increase their physical insecurity and worry about their body image. This could lead to serious emotional issues, such as eating disorders. Parents are supposed to teach their children how to love themselves no matter how they look on the outside. 2. Provocative questions towards actions, like, why do you act so weird? Why do you walk that way, chew that way, move or talk that way? Children tend to believe anything their parents say, so sarcastic questions or remarks like these may make the child feel like there's something wrong with them. This makes it very hard for the child to be themselves around people, even during their adulthood. And they may then be trapped by the discomfort and fear that others may laugh at them or notice the flaws that their toxic parents made up for them. 3. Selfish wishes. I wish you were never born. I wish I had an abortion. I regret having you. I wish you were a different child. Parents should never say something like this to a child. It'll make them feel like they weren't supposed to exist in this world in the first place, and that they don't deserve to be alive. These remarks are so harmful to a child, to a human in general. They diminish their whole sense of identity, which can lead to self-harm and early depression. Instead, parents should make them feel loved and valued. 4. Making the child feel like a burden. You cost me too much money. It's so hard to take care of you. Having you exhausts me. If a parent says this to their child, the child will feel like a burden. It'll cause them to unconsciously hide their needs, feelings, and problems just to avoid the wrath of the parent. Considering that, NEMRS, a nonprofit children's healthcare system, reported that lack of love and affection or materialistic things are some of the causes for some children to lean on stealing and being abusive. 5. Unhealthy comparisons. Why aren't you like your sibling, cousin, or the other kids? The other kids are better than you. This will reduce a child's self-esteem substantially and makes them think that they'll never be good enough, no matter how hard they try. Also, comparing siblings with one another only promotes an unhealthy relationship between them. This will cause them to feel jealousy and resentment towards each other. Siblings should be equally given the right to build their own independent identities. 6. Verbally abusive words or statements. You're stupid, useless, you're a loser, or you'll never make it. Absolute remarks like this will damage the child's self-esteem. It's important that parents encourage their children into believing in themselves. 7. Threatening abandonment. I'll leave you. I'll put you aside. You'll wake up and never find me. I'll just disappear. This will cause a child to have abandonment issues, fearing that people they love will leave them because of who they are. When a child grows up, this belief will be unconsciously ingrained in their mind. They'll be unable to trust future relationships for fear of them leaving. And 8. Empty promises. If you do this, I'll buy you that. Or I'll take you there next time. But then they don't do it. When a parent makes promises that they don't keep, it breaks the child's trust. It makes the child feel betrayed. Making fake promises is an excellent way to teach a child how not to trust others in life. To conclude, even though words aren't physically harmful, they can be extremely harmful to the psyche and emotional well-being. Childhood is an essential chapter in every human's life. Our childhood builds our personalities, behaviors, and beliefs. Have you experienced any of these forms of abuse? How do you feel about them? Do you know someone who has and could benefit from watching this video? Please consider sharing this video to reach worldwide attention.
This other video is not available, but if you go to this link or just go to YouTube and search CASA Parenting Week 2 Healthy Communication, it should pop up. All of the videos are in a watch list, which I believe will also be leaked in the Google Classroom for you guys to watch if any of the videos don't load for you. Make time for 9, which we talked about last time, is the need for physical contact by a child every day, which is the 9x9 rule, so 9 minutes of your time, 9 minutes of your time before 9, which they're saying should be a bedtime. But children need physical contact as well as emotional contact to help with their trust and healing, like hugs and kisses, pats on the back, adjusting a shirt collar, back rub, shoulder rub. They also need 9 minutes of quality time that matter. The most important times of the day are the first 3 after the child is waking up or seeing you, the first 3 minutes after you come home from work or they come home from school or childcare, and then the last 3 minutes of the day before either you go to bed or they go to bed, depending on what your guys' family dynamics look like. Some people work overnight, so these don't necessarily fit 100% for them, those families. And then really take the time to slow down, look them in the eyes, talk with them, ask them open-ended questions about their day. We talked about this in week 1 instruction as well. There are common barriers to communication. Communication blocks are any words, tone of voice, body language that influences a person sharing to end their communication. Some communication blocks are like being commanding, using sarcasm, criticizing, the presence of distractions or being distracting. Feels like you're interrogating them, focusing on their mistakes, and expecting perfectionism, advising, moralizing, or being a know-it-all. We talk about some of these communication blocks also when we're talking about like yelling at your child in the discipline section and how it can be damaging to the child and their brain development and stuff like that. These barriers can cause hurt feelings, being discouraged, being demoralized or feeling demoralized, having a lower self-esteem, unmotivating them. It can trigger resentment towards you and also dishearten you. This is a TED Talk on miscommunication.
Have you ever talked with a friend about a problem, only to realize that he just doesn't seem to grasp why the issue is so important to you? Have you ever presented an idea to a group, and it's met with utter confusion? Or maybe you've been in an argument when the other person suddenly accuses you of not listening to what they're saying at all. What's going on here? The answer is miscommunication, and in some form or another, we've all experienced it. It can lead to confusion, animosity, misunderstanding, or even crashing a multi-million-dollar probe into the surface of Mars. The fact is, even when face-to-face with another person, in the very same room, and speaking the same language, human communication is incredibly complex. But the good news is that a basic understanding of what happens when we communicate can help us prevent miscommunication. For decades, researchers have asked what happens when we communicate. One interpretation, called the transmission model, views communication as a message that moves directly from one person to another, similar to someone tossing a ball and walking away. But in reality, this simplistic model doesn't account for communication's complexity. Enter the transactional model, which acknowledges the many added challenges of communicating. With this model, it's more accurate to think of communication between people as a game of catch. As we communicate our message, we receive feedback from the other party. Through the transaction, we create meaning together. But from this exchange, further complications arise. It's not like the Star Trek universe, where some characters can Vulcan mind meld, fully sharing thoughts and feelings. As humans, we can't help but send and receive messages through our own subjective lenses. When communicating, one person expresses her interpretation of a message, and the person she's communicating with hears his own interpretation of that message. Our perceptual filters continually shift meanings and interpretations. Remember that game of catch? Imagine it with a lump of clay. As each person touches it, they shape it to fit their own unique perceptions, based on any number of variables, like knowledge or past experience, age, race, gender, ethnicity, religion, or family background. Simultaneously, every person interprets the message they receive based on their relationship with the other person, and their unique understanding of the semantics and connotations of the exact words being used. They can also be distracted by other stimuli, such as traffic or a growling stomach. Even emotion might cloud their understanding, and by adding more people into a conversation, each with their own subjectivities, the complexity of communication grows exponentially. So as the lump of clay goes back and forth from one person to another, reworked, reshaped, and always changing, it's no wonder our messages sometimes turn into a mush of miscommunication. But luckily, there are some simple practices that can help us all navigate our daily interactions for better communication. 1. Recognize that passive hearing and active listening are not the same. Engage actively with the verbal and nonverbal feedback of others, and adjust your message to facilitate greater understanding. 2. Listen with your eyes and ears, as well as with your gut. Remember that communication is more than just words. 3. Take time to understand as you try to be understood. In the rush to express ourselves, it's easy to forget that communication is a two-way street. Be open to what the other person might say. And finally, 4. Be aware of your personal perceptual filters. Elements of your experience, including your culture, community, and family, influence how you see the world. Say, this is how I see the problem, but how do you see it? Don't assume that your perception is the objective truth. That'll help you work towards sharing a dialogue with others to reach a common understanding together.
Here I would encourage you to engage in questions or group discussions on love and logic, communication barriers and miscommunication in the Google Classrooms forum if you are comfortable doing so. If you do choose to do so, keep in mind the confidentiality of others and yourself. Now it is time for the quiz and the class survey. The quiz and the class survey are both posted in the Google Classrooms under week 2. If you would complete those, I will get back to you sometime to verify participation and send you guys via email your certificate for participation and completion on week 2 communication. Thank you. See you next time.